authorizes the appropriation and use of a prior year's funds resulting from the cancellation of purchase orders. States the county clerk authorized purchase orders towards legal services during the 2010-2012 council term. The finance director rejected the purchase orders due to the lack of required authorization by the council, resulting in unencumbered funds totaling $42,499. This measure appropriates the unencumbered funds for the use in the current fiscal year. Reference Communication 216, introduced by Mr. Yoshimoto, waived FC.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 94-13?
So moved. Second.
Made by Mr. Kerr and seconded by Mr. Kunuha. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Do you want to explain why you're doing this? Then I'll have my comments.
Yep. Why don't I turn over the chair to Ms. Eoff? Ms. Eoff?
Thank you. For the record, I've assumed the chair, and I recognize Mr. Yoshimoto.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Basically, what this resolution is doing is allowing us to use funds that were encumbered during the last council term. As the resolution indicates, the money was encumbered in a certain account, and it was not authorized either by the finance director or by the council, and therefore this money was basically locked up. So this resolution is necessary to release those funds back to the operating expenses for the council use. Otherwise, it goes back into the general fund, and we don't have the benefit of using that money.
Thank you. Ms. Ford.
Thank you. I disagree with this resolution entirely. For those of us who were not on the council for the last term and not privy to the subject matter and probably have not been in and read any of the records, there is a very big controversy over whether or not the hiring of these two professional attorneys, I guess they're all professional attorneys, that was redundant. Okay, these two attorneys was correct or not correct. I have always maintained it was correct. They were used the state procurement process to the letter. They were not hired as litigators. They were hired because we were told by Corporation Counsel that the Corporation Counsel, in its entirety, every single attorney, was conflicted. We had no counsel on the subject until the Corporation Counsel was finally told that you don't have a conflict. And anyway, we were not allowed to talk to these attorneys. They, in good faith, came forward and did work for this county council, the past county council, and were not paid. I think it's inappropriate to cancel these things. I don't really care that Corporation Counsel has taken a position in this, or the finance department. We are operating under the laws of the state, not only the state but the federal government. This lawsuit is not over yet. There will be ramifications. No matter which way it's decided, there are going to be extending ramifications, and we should not be giving this back. This is encumbered money. It will stay encumbered. It should stay encumbered until this lawsuit is settled in totality. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Real quick. So, the bottom line is, if we don't do this, it goes back to the general fund. And so if we do this, then we're able to use the money, which we do need for operating expenses. And so it doesn't just stay out there in limbo. It goes back to the general fund because we don't have the authority to use it yet. So this is not commenting on the prior the lawsuit or the existing lawsuit. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with just making sure that we can use the money during this fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Ford. And
the money's encumbered to pay these two attorneys. It's encumbered money.
Mr. Ishida, would you like to explain to us?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good morning, members of the council. I just wanted to make some comments concerning some of the discussions and representations placed on the record this morning. First of all, with respect to the ongoing lawsuit, it is correct that the lawsuit is ongoing. However, the county is no longer a party. We were dismissed out of the lawsuit, so the individuals are currently remain in the case in their individual capacities. That's number one. Secondarily, we've had this discussion before, but because the issue was brought up today, when special counsel is hired, it is a two legal requirement process. Complying with the procurement code is just half of the process. Okay, that may have very well been done in this case. However, a second equally important and significant process that must be complied with is the special counsel requirements found in the charter, which requires a 2/3 vote of the council. In other words, procurement is just half of the story. The whole story, in truth, is you need both approvals. That second approval was never gotten by the former council. With respect to representation by the Office of the Corporation Counsel with respect to the county, I take exception and disagree with any assertion that the council at any time was without representation. Anytime there is a conflict of interest, a potential conflict of interest, it is brought to the attention of the client body, constituent body, which was done in this case. At that point, the next step then is to follow both the charter requirement and the procurement code requirement of obtaining special counsel. That's the next step. If the council then needs special counsel, go get it. Follow the charter, follow procurement. Follow the follow the charter, follow procurement. The follow the charter part never occurred. And at that point, we then took it upon ourselves to recontact the head of the Office of the Disciplinary Council, explain the circumstances, and then got and obtained her approval to stay in the case. Okay? So I think that if there's any assertion, if the assertion that the council was somehow abandoned was true, then what we would have done is said, you know what, we conflicted out, you guys are on your own. That didn't happen in this case. We worked with ODC to stay in the case, and we stayed in the case to get the county dismissed out of the case, which it is now. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ishida. Ms. Ford? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to take Mr. Onishi.
Thank you,
Come back to
Madam Chair. Yeah, I needed to echo what Lincoln had just said, because I was on the council at the time, and I went through the whole process, and comment was made that they were hired to represent the council members, and they weren't hired to represent all the council members. It was only certain council members. Okay, and then the process of hiring that special counsel, we needed a 2/3 vote. It was never brought upon us, so that's why too I couldn't understand why this money got encumbered, and why now we got to go through a resolution, because we never did a resolution to put the money in there at the first place. And so I don't know why we need to have a resolution now to take it back out, because I can answer, because if you have a resolution that you did, then you put it in, then you need a resolution to take it up. But if you didn't do one from the start, I cannot understand why we're doing one now. But I'm going to support this because, like I said, we never voted on, the council members voted on hiring any lawyers to represent us. And so that's why I'm going to be supporting this, getting this money back into our budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support Mr. Yoshimoto's resolution here. Mr. Ishida explained it clearly. We cannot lose this money. We need it. We're in a tough economic time. We came into this council session with a smaller budget than we would otherwise have. And again, we just can't lose this money, and it makes sense. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. Ms. Poindexter.
Yeah, I just like to keep focused on not the issue of what had happened, and we got counsel and they hired somebody else. That's not what this is. If I'm getting it right, it's a financial thing that we need to look at. Either it goes back to the general fund, or we put it into the council budget. Correct, Mr. Yoshimoto? Is that what my understanding is from you? So I see it real clean cut here. Either it goes back to the general fund, or it comes into our county council budget. And I don't think this resolution is here to bring up about talking about what had happened previously in the case and what was right and what was wrong in the case as far as hiring attorneys. That's not what this resolution is for. Am I off? Or yes. Okay. Mr. Councilmember Yoshimoto, you brought this resolution forward, and basically you're saying that it's a financial matter, right? It's not about the case itself.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
So it's a financial matter. It's not about the case. So I'm looking at finance. So it goes back to general fund, or it stays in the county council, or we put it in the county council budget. And that's what your intention was with this resolution?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I yield at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Ford?
Thank you. It's my understanding when money is encumbered in a contract, which is what we had. We started out with a verbal contract with these attorneys. It is everything to do with about the case. It's not just a financial matter. I must respectfully disagree with a portion of what Mr. Ishida told you. The reason it never came forward, this issue came forward as a special counsel vote, is because we weren't asking for a litigator. You only need a special counsel when you're going to trial. And Mr. Lincoln keeps leaving that piece of information out. He keeps doing it over and over again. These people were hired to give us legal advice because our attorneys were telling us they had conflicts. All 17 of them had conflicts. When an attorney has a conflict, the rules of professional conduct say you cannot continue to give legal advice. Yet Corporation Counsel continued to give legal advice over and over again, and they would not help us. They would not help us. If you're in the minority of this council, you can be in big trouble if you can't get the Corporation Counsel to help you. And that's where we were. And that's why we went to the procurement standard. I'm saying the last council chair. But that's why they went for a professional contract to get legal advice, not to litigate, and therefore we did not need special counsel. In the state law, Mr. Yagong was named in the state law as the chief procurement officer of the county council, just like every other chair. That's the law under which we hired these attorneys, and they've never been paid for the work they've done. The fact that they are encumbered, this money's encumbered, in my opinion, means that it is a contract that's still standing until we pay the bill, and this county has refused to pay the bill. And it's a total political... All right, let me get a little more calm here. If this is totally political, the money's encumbered, it should stay there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Mr. Ishida, would you like to address the comment regarding
Yes.
the hiring of special counsel?
Thank you, Ms. Yao. First of all, it's incorrect to say that once an attorney has a conflict, that they have to cease work immediately. In fact, and contrary to what was represented, under the rules of professional conduct, an attorney must continue its service, even in a conflict situation, so as to not allow the client to demise legally in any way. In other words, you cannot just say, okay, conflict, we're out of here. You have to do what is practically necessary under the circumstances to preserve the client's right until such time that subsequent counsel is hired. So again, that was a misrepresentation that was made earlier. Secondly, again, whether you're the chief procurement officer or not, really that's only half of the picture. The other half, to reiterate, is the charter requirement of the 2/3 vote. That is simply in black and white. If that wasn't the case, then all the other times that we come before you to ask for special counsel, Hokulia special counsel, for example, if I'm the chief purchasing agent for Corp Counsel, I could say, I'm just going to hire McCorson. I don't need your 2/3 vote. But that doesn't happen. We do that in every case. Thank you.
Ms. Ford?
Thank you. Part of what he said is correct. This council needs to understand that there are certain laws that take precedence. And Mr. Ishida was correct when he said, until we procure other legal counsel. And that's what the last council administration did. They got legal counsel, and Mr. Ishida and Corporation Counsel refused to let this council even listen to them. They continued to they wouldn't let us have legal counsel, and then they wouldn't help us at the time. We are not doing this correctly, guys. And I know Mr. Ishida keeps trying to go back to special counsel, but we had no litigation at the time.
I'm allowing some latitude here to clear that point up, but normally we, council members have 2 opportunities to speak, but Mr.
This
Ishida.
didn't go through committee, Madam Chair.
Point of order.
Yeah.
We should be treating with each other with a decent discourse and a level of respect here. We can disagree, but it doesn't mean that you have to start treating people poorly and having a negative tonality towards them. We can do better than this. Thank you.
Okay. Can I say something, Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Ms.
Because
Poindexter.
we're really losing focus here. The resolution that some people may feel that some monies were encumbered someplace else, or fees are due to the attorney. Some people believe that, and that's not being paid. But that's not what this is for. My understanding is that it's going to go back to the general fund, or if this resolution passes, it comes to the county council budget. I understand there's issues between the past county council and corp council on how things were done and what had happened, but that's not the issue at hand, and we're getting lost in this. So I feel we're getting lost in it, because it's real clear from what I'm hearing that we have a choice. It goes back again. I'm going to say this for the 6th time or 7th time. It goes back to general fund or comes to the county council budget.
Councilmember Yagong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say to the public that I support this resolution, and I feel that Councilmember Yoshimoto made a wise move on this, and you have my support.
Thank you. And Ms. Willie?
Okay, I'd like to first ask Chair Yoshimoto, is Councilmember Poindexter's point is that really at issue here is only does this money go back to the council or stay in the general fund? I don't really want to, I think there are serious issues that Ms. Ford is raising, but I'd like to know if I can, there's a lawsuit going on, there's things going on. I just want to separate it out, that we are not affecting by supporting that this money go back to the council rather than going in the general fund. I don't want to make a statement as to my opinion as to how things were handled before, because I do share a lot of the concerns that Ms. Ford expressed, but I would like to support Ms. Poindexter's point that in my vote, I am simply going, here's something canceled, it's going into Fund X, not Fund Y, without taking a position on what went on before. Am I correct? Is that your intent?
That's my intention, and I
Okay.
think that's clear. Yeah, I'm not mentioning anything about what happened in the past.
And
Whatever happened,
making a
happened.
statement
Yeah.
as to taking a position.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Onishi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, if you're just looking at the title, it says, from the cancellation of the purchase orders, okay? So, and whereas number 1 was payable to Michael Matsukawa, and I guess that's why Ms. Ford is bringing up this issue a little. And if you look at whereas number 2, 25,000 was supposed to be payable to this firm, right? But, like I'm saying, a little bit of history, what happened, and the council never, like I said, and that's why I'm saying, I don't understand why we're doing this, because we never did a resol to encumber the money anyway, so I don't know why we're doing one resol for unencumber, so, but that's my question. Yeah, that's my that's only my And then, but just a comment that, it was mentioned about, like when you're in a minority group, at that term, we were in a minority group, and Ms. Ford was in the majority. So, I don't know why they didn't just go with the 2/3 vote. But thank you.
Because there was no special.
Council members, is there any further discussion? Is there, anybody would like to suspend the rules?
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yeah.
Ms. Ford?
This was waived from committee. We could have had this discussion in the committee level, but somebody waived it up here.
I did.
And that was the finance chair. We've never had the chance to have this discussion, we've never had the chance to have this discussion at the committee level, which is why we're having so much discussion today.
Then I guess I'd like to ask the clerk if we would need to suspend our rules to allow the discussion to...
I think you can.
You're off all the way through.
I'm sorry. Mr. Clerk,
Could we just take a brief recess?
Thank you.
To kind of discuss this matter?
Come on, Jay, discuss encumbering money.
That you're a waiver.
Okay, council members,
Never had the discussion.
I'm going to allow Ms. Poindexter to explain why this item was waived,
Yeah.
and I'll give Ms. Ford one more opportunity to comment, and then we're going to call for the vote.
Yeah, the reason why I waived it is because time is of the essence when it comes to finance and the whole budgeting process coming about us very soon. And so I am in agreement that maybe we should have a little bit more discussion on this because it was not, I didn't bring it before my committee. So thank you for allowing Ms. Ford some extra time. Aloha.
Okay.
Can I make?
Go ahead, Ms. Ford.
When you encumber money from year one and you don't expend it in year one, the encumbrance continues for quite, an indefinite period of time until the project or the bill is paid. And that's what's going on here. There's actually three options. You can spend it, or you can put it back in the general fund if you don't spend it. But once it becomes encumbered, it carries over as an encumbrance until the next fiscal year or years in the plural. When attorneys or any professional service is contracted for, whether it's an oral or a written commitment, money is encumbered, and that's what happened during the last cycle. The money was encumbered. Therefore, it carries over to the next fiscal year, whether it's this year or the next fiscal year, until these bills are paid. Just for the council's enlightenment, I brought forward a resolution in front of this council to pay these attorneys for the work they did, based on the contract that was made orally under extreme circumstances to get them to fly from Honolulu and come from Kona to a meeting. And they had already done the preliminary work, and they are entitled to be paid, and they weren't even allowed to talk to the council. But the money was encumbered. We knew how much money was going to be there. They were encumbered for I think it was $25,000, something like that. I'm not sure anymore because I wasn't the one involved in the contract. But the money's encumbered, so there's a third option here, which means that it should go. Not only did Corporation Counsel not allow us to speak to attorneys who'd already engaged in work for us, they told the finance director not to cancel the purchase orders, which they, in my opinion, had no right to do based on state law. So I think we should leave the money as encumbered, let it keep carrying over until everything is done. Thank you.
Mr. Logan.
I just want to read out the charter. On section 6-5.5, special counsel. The council may, by 2/3 vote of its entire membership, authorize the employment of special counsel for any special matters presenting a real necessity for such employment. Any such authorization shall specify the compensation, if any, to be paid for said services. There was no 2/3 vote, and right now, we need to focus on this resolution, not what had happened in the past. This resolution is pretty cut, pretty dry. We are gonna lose out on this money. I think we just need to release it so we can actually be able to use it. It's as simple as that. Let's start voting.
Mr. Kern?
Call for the question.
Second.
Mr. Clerk?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
No.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Poindexter.
Aye.
Ms. Willie.
No.
Chair Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair, you have 7 ayes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Now we'd like to take a vote on Resolution 94-13.
Ms. Ford.
No.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Poindexter.
Aye.
Ms. Willie.
No.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Eoff.
Aye.
Chair Eoff, you have 7 ayes.
Thank you. The Resolution 94-13 is adopted, and I'd like to now give the chair back to Chair Yoshimoto.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Eoff. Mr. Clerk, number